السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. My Lord, expand my chest for me and ease my affair for me and untie the knot from my tongue so that they may understand my speech. Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen. So, inshallah, today we will continue the third session of our module one. This is an Islamic history class, and the title or the subtitle is Connecting the Dots. So, today is October 15th, 19th Rabiul Awal, 1444. And this is the session where we actually get started with some of the basics that we need to know in this class. These are just reminders that this is a 30-minute session, 15 minutes question and answers, and then we will have open discussions. This is the complete syllabus that I have shared with you previously. This is not, this is not something that we will uh, possibly follow, but we will try to follow this, but we might change some of the topics as the speed of the course and as the need of our students. So keep that in mind. This is a dynamic class, so we can modify some of the modules. Just a reminder, please attend classes on time, be attentive, take notes, raise hands if you have a question, try not to miss any class, and if possible, attend these classes via desktop, laptop, or an iPad. I'll do a very brief overview of last session because some of you who are joining us today or who missed last class. Basically, we talked about the beginning. We know that Allah has always been there and will always be there. This is part of our iman. When Allah said kun and it happened, and scientifically we call it Big Bang, and then the light created, the nur was created, and then angels were created from that nur, and the human souls were created from that nur. But then the nur started getting bigger, brighter, hotter, and that is nar, which is fire. So jinns were created from it. So all the galaxies, planets, and everything got created. Uh, as time and space was also created at that time. When the Big Bang happened, there was no time and space. So then we see that time and space has started. Allah collected all the human beings' souls, and he asked them, Alastu bi rabbikum, am I not your God? And everyone said, yes, indeed you are our Lord, you are our God. Then Allah put them to sleep again. So all the ruh were awake. They answered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them back to sleep. And then as we are being born in the wombs of our mothers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends that soul to each one of us. And this process will continue till the end of time. So we already talked about all this, and then we talked about Big Bang. We talked about the clusters, galaxies, planets, and other objects were created. Then I also shared with you approximate timing of all this. Of course, there's no way of knowing the exact timing, but these were all approximate time. And then we talked about Earth and other planets. The solar systems got created. The solar system that we live in got created. Our galaxy is called Milky Way galaxy, and then of course our galaxy is part of many thousands and thousands and millions of galaxies, which are called cluster of galaxies. And there are many super clusters that all galaxies belong to it. So we as on earth as a human being is a very small part of this entire creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our solar system. I'm pretty sure you have all studied this in your classes, just to give you an idea that where we are. And basically we are right here. So we have sun, then we have other planets around us. They're all orbiting in the around the sun, and this is how we exist. So just very basic overview. We will not go into a lot of scientific information, but this is something every Muslim, every human being should know. Now, before we go into discussion of the prophets, I would like you to know And I'm pretty sure you all know, but it's just kind of a refresher that when we write dates with AD, CE, BC, or BCE, what does it mean, and what should we use uh, at different times of our writings, or when we are reading? How do we understand? So BC is before Christ. Very simple. BC, before Christ. So anytime, for example, when we say 600 BC, it means that 600 years before Christ. AD is the literal uh, it is short form of Anno Domini. It means in the year of Lord, meaning at the time of Jesus Christ. So first used in 16th century. So it was not really used at that time, but now we refer to that time with these BC and AD, and then BCE. This is also same as BC, but it is called before Common Era. Before Christ is also called, the era is called Common Era, and that's before the birth of Jesus Christ. And then CE is basically Common Era, which is after the birth of Jesus, which is also comparable to AD. So whenever you see BC, that's before Christ. Whenever you see AD or CE, it means it's after Christ, after the birth of Jesus Christ. Okay, so as you can see, this is just an example. How do you compare? So this is 500 BC, and then as we go back, the numbers are increasing, just the way it increases as we come forward after the death of Jesus Christ. Then we go 500 AD or 500 CE or 1000 AD, and today we are in 2022 AD or CE. Similarly, and this is the breaking point. So similarly, when you talk about the era before Jesus Christ, then we refer it to as BC or BCE. So we keep going back, and inshallah, as I will discuss, that some of the information that we will be sharing during the entire class. So whenever I say BC, please remember that, for example, 2000 BC is a long time ago, but 500 BC is just 500 years ago, and this is 2000 years ago. So that's how you can keep that in mind. Okay, there's another thing, we call it Israeliyat or Israeli Riwayat in Urdu, but basically these are the reports taken from Torah or Bible, Torah or Injil. So Torah and Bible, any reports that we take from Torah and Bible are basically called Israeliyat. So there are three different kinds. And this is again very important, because when we study history, especially Islamic history, many of these stories are not told in Quran. I mean, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala touches on an event, but all the details or some of the details we find from previous books, because those books are also from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Torah, the Bible, the Zabur, all these books are also from Allah, but the only issue at this present time is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taken the responsibility himself that he will take care of the Quran till the end of the day. But this is his wisdom, this is his hikmah, that Torah and Bible are not present in its original form in today's time. So keep that in mind, but they are still haq. They are still the true word of God if they existed today in its original form. But it so some of the information is correct, but other information that contradicts with Quran is not. So for example, if these sayings or these stories, if they are according to Quran and Sunnah, we accept them and we can relate to them. Very simple. If story about Musa alayhi salam and some of some, like Genesis or Exodus or these detailed stories, if they're not contradicting with Quran, if they're according to Quran and Sunnah, then we believe them and we say we accept them and we can relate to them. If they do not contradict with Quran, so it's not like it's according to Quran, but if there is a story that does not contradict with Quran and Sunnah, we will neither accept them or reject them, but we can mention them. So we can mention then, hey, this is the Torah and Bible talked about this, but we are not sure, or we don't have any confirmation from Quran and Sunnah, but we neither reject them nor accept them. Then the third kind is very critical. So they contradict with Quran and Sunnah. So any saying, anything that is in Injil or by Torah or any other book that we get from these previous generations, but we know that it is in contradiction with Quran and Sunnah and Islamic Sharia, so we reject them immediately and we are not permitted to relate to them or use them in our text, in our writings, or our speeches. Okay, so these three things are very important. Please remember this because these things will keep coming back when we talk about the history of Islam. Now, the third thing that is very important is geography. So geographical locations, in order to understand the time and routes of Prophet Sallallahu Anbiya alayhimus salam and their future generations, we must understand the geographical locations on the world map. So I cannot emphasize more on having a large wall map of the world. Please use it. Please put it on the wall that you can refer to, share it with your children. Then, if you can, after getting a world map, if you can also get a Middle East map, because all the prophet that we know from Quran, they are all from Middle East. So if we have a little focused map of Middle East, then it will be easier for us to understand. So here's a very short lesson in geography. So this is the map of the world. We know this is Middle East, where we're going to talk about all the prophets right here. We know all these continents. This is Africa, this is Asia, this is Australia, North America, South America, and so on. So you need to know that, inshallah, we will be studying all 25 prophets that are mentioned in the Quran who came to pretty much this area. And inshallah, I'll give you a little more focused maps. This is a map of Middle East. So we had prophets from Egypt who lived in Egypt. We had prophets from Saudi Arabia, from very border of Saudi Arabia and Yemen. We had a prophet from here, from Iraq, from Syria, Jordan, Palestine, and so on. So inshallah, we will be studying them. So just keep in mind that this is the map of Middle East. Now, another very quick, I don't want to spend too much time here, but very quick overview of our ancient world. So around 4000 BC, I don't want you guys to be overwhelmed with seeing all this maps and everything. Inshallah, we'll keep refreshing our memories. I'll keep bringing up these maps. So slowly you can start relating to the areas. So remember, this is Saudi Arabia, but in 4000 BC, 4000 years before Jesus Christ, this is the map. Okay, so this Sumerian civilization, or an area that is called Mesopotamia. Remember this term, Mesopotamia, is basically the area that is in between Euphrates River and Tigris. Tigris and Euphrates are the two major rivers that are coming down from Turkey, and then they fall into Persian Gulf. So this is where the civilization, as we know, as human being, we know that civilization started from here. So it's Sumerian civilization. Then we have a little bit of people started moving or living around River Nile, which is in Egypt. This is Palestine. The old name of Palestine was Canaan. Canaan. So remember that. So the civilization between these two rivers started flourishing. And then we see that secondly, there's an Indus Valley civilization, which basically is in Pakistan and then goes all the way to the north. So this is the Indus Valley civilization, very old civilization. Then we see that in addition to all these civilizations, we had Shang dynasty in China, and this is called basically there is a river called Yellow River, and around that river this civilization was established. So you have Mesopotamia civilization, you had Egypt civilization, ancient Egypt, you had uh, Indus Valley civilization, and that's how human beings started flourishing. And then some people started moving to southern Europe, and then you see the Hittite civilization, Mycenaean, Minoan, and all those civilizations. Then it's kept expanding. The Egyptian part is expanding. Babylonia is a city that we all read in history. This is also a city right around here, and we have heard that a couple of kings were very tyrant kings, and one of them actually destroyed Palestine, and we will see in detail, inshallah. Okay, so 1000 BC, this is the situation of the civilizations. 700 BC, only 700 years, there's an Assyrian Empire. We will talk about it in detail after we discuss prophets. But just keep in mind that these are the civilizations, and the new kings come and they capture, because everyone is trying to live around the river, around the water, because the water is a basic necessity of human being, and it's a sweet water. So it means, I mean, they are, even if they're living close to ocean or seas, but that's salty water, so they cannot use it on daily basis. So they try to live around a river or sweet water reservoirs. So all these civilizations arose around those rivers. Okay, and then we see that, Aryans, all the Indian, Pakistani, and all these peoples probably have read in their history books that Aryans were the ones who came first in this area. But then we see that around 500 BC, almost around the time of uh, three different religions that arose, but basically Persian Empire had the monopoly in the world. They were the biggest empire at that time, which is around 500 years before the birth of Jesus Christ. Okay, and then Aryan kingdoms is expanding further down in south and India. Then we see that the Persian Empire has also captured Egypt, and now they're moving south towards Nubia and then Sudan and all these places. These are still desert nomads, meaning that this is the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, and people who are nomads are living here, and there are a lot of deserts. So who survive or who are tough basically survived in this area, and the rest of them started moving other places. In the meantime, Europe is also getting some civilization going. Some people moving there started, hunters and gatherers and so on. So now at around 500 BC, we'll just see what's happening in early civilization in 500 BC. So as we will see that new religions and philosophies being taught at that time, and this will shape human history and right up to the present day. So the Persian Empire, as I showed you on the map, this entire Persian Empire was much of the Middle East is now ruled by the huge Persian Empire. The Persians are an Iranian people closely related to the Medes. Under their king Cyrus, I'm sure you all know Cyrus. Cyrus was the king, a Persian king. They have rebelled against the Medes and taken over their empire. Cyrus and his successors have then expanded its borders dramatically. So Cyrus is when started conquering Persian, he expanded the Persian Empire and just basically reached Africa and South Europe and the entire, pretty much entire Eastern area and the Middle East. The Persian kings are much more moderate than the Assyrian Babylonian. We haven't studied Assyrian Babylonian, but we will touch a little bit on them a little later. But just remember that these were the earlier kingdoms that were run by Assyrians and then Babylonians. Babylonian king, one of the Babylonian king was Namrud, who put Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam into fire. So you can kind of relate to Babylon with the Ibrahim alayhi salam. Then there was a tyrant ruler, Nebuchadnezzar. He was king of Babylon. He was the one who deported. He destroyed the Palestine or Israel or whatever you want to call, or Bani Israel, and then he basically deported all the Jews, Judah people, because then again there's a lot of stuff that we still need to talk about. But Jews who are called Jews nowadays, basically, they were moved out of Palestine and they were moved to Babylon. And this was a tyrant king, so he killed a lot of people, and then he jailed many of them. And this continued for a long time. And then we will see that how Persian king Cyrus came afterwards, and he released them, and he let them go back to Palestine, and they started rebuilding the Solomon Temple and all those other assets that they have. They started regathering them. So and this was the monotheistic religion. We all know Judaism is also monotheistic, so they believe in one Allah. Now around that Same time, 500 BCE, 500 years before Jesus Christ, there was a Greek civilization, as I showed you, Southern Europe. So the Greek civilization has continued to develop. They're slowly developing. The Greek city and states have already produced great mathematicians, thinkers, poets, sculptors, and architects. In politics, the first democracy at the city of Athens has appeared. So this is still before Jesus Christ. So all these knowledge and ilm has been started by those people, but they were also philosophers. We will talk about three different people who existed in the world at that time. And now Greeks are now waking up to the Persians' threat. So the Persians are keep expanding. If Greek had not if greed had not stopped them, or the Southern European power had not stopped them, they would have probably captured the entire Europe and further east and the Central Asia, and because they're already in Africa, so they could have gone further down in Africa. Okay, so there were two great school of thoughts. Now this is related to the religion. So two great school of thoughts who were those? They were basically Buddhism and Confucianism, right? Again, please don't get overwhelmed, because we will discuss this. This is just how can I say that this is just like building a case that, hey, this is what was happening in the old times in the Asian world, and slowly we will move forward, but we will keep relating to this time. So in addition to those two great religions, or which came into a religion, which came into being as a religion, but they were just a philosophy or a school of thought. So, and then Socrates, also a great philosopher from Greece, he also existed around same time, around 470, 480 BC, which is around this 500 BC time. So Socrates held certain convictions with confidence. What are those? Human wisdom begins with the recognition of one's own ignorance. This is philosophical. You don't have to understand it, but just kind of know that these were his some of his convictions. The unexamined life is not worth living. Ethical virtue is the only thing that matters. A good person can never be harmed, because whatever misfortune he may suffer, his virtue will remain intact. So these were the teachings, you can say, or the convictions or the ideas of Socrates. Now, on the other side of the world, so Socrates existed in Greece, in Southern Europe. Now, on the other side of the world, in India, Buddhism started. In India, Buddha is teaching at that time his disciples about the need to renounce such worldly ambitions as gaining wealth and status. So he's against the becoming a king or ruling the entire world and having power, because then you become ruthless and so on. So he believes that one should stay away from the worldly wealth and status. Rather, they should make it their objective to have compassion on all creatures. So once you become a king, and you start justifying your actions by overpowering the people, the general public. So it's better to be compassionate on all creatures, that includes human beings and animals. But so he was trying to stay away from these people. So he went out into mountains, and we all know this story. The great world religion of Buddhism will arise from these teachings. So at that time, it was not a religion, but he was just one person who started preaching, or started teaching their disciples, their people. And then eventually, when he died, and after a long time, they kind of considered this as a religion. Same thing. Now go further down east. Now we reach to China. There was a Chinese man, and his teachings basically started being called Confucianism. He was Confucius. In China, this is the period when the philosopher Confucius is active. He teaches that society will only know harmony when all people know their place within it and treat each other with kindness and respect. This is basically merit. We lack this ability, this capability, this compassion, this understanding of merit, that one should find whatever they have in them, and then they treat each other accordingly with kindness and respect. So they understand If they have a lot of knowledge, they can take a role as a teacher. But if they don't have any knowledge, then they should not take a role as a teacher. So this is a huge philosophy that, if I'm sure some of you must have read about them. His teachings, Confucianism, will influence Chinese thinking right up to the present day. So now we have seen the Southern Europe, a philosopher. We have seen Buddha in India, and now we have seen Confucius in China. So this is what's happening 500 years before Jesus, or before Isa alayhi salam was born. Now, very quickly, I know time goes fast, but very quickly. So we go back to 10,000 BC. 10,000 BC, we know this is a Mesopotamia. The earliest hunter and gatherers starts getting together here because, again, why? Because there is a river, there is a sweet water availability. Excuse me. So these are hunter and gatherers all over. Whatever they find, they kill animals, they eat them, and they started their life. This is 10,000 BC. Then we see that 9,000 BC, the Middle East is seeing a shift away from hunter gathering to the cultivation of wheat and barley. So this is 9,000 BCE. Similarly, now they're using animals such as sheep, goats, and cattle, and now they are being domesticated. This is also a huge revolution in human life, because now they're domesticating the animals, and they're using the milk, they're using their skin, and so on. So they're using all these resources to flourish. And this keeps on going. Agriculture started happening. Communities in South Asia, now that the Indus Valley civilization is arising, Chinese civilization is arising in 6000 BC. We have already looked at 5000 BC. Now people are farming. You can see now this has all reached to the pretty much uh, part of Europe, by borders of Spain. Now it is Spain. Now we see some South American activities here. Excuse me. So farming is down into Nubia now because of the river Nile. Now this is also sweet water. So now people are moving here, starting whatever they were doing here, they started moving there. Whatever knowledge they had, they started moving and transferring that knowledge. And now we can see that human beings are living in all these different places. Now, urban literature civilization, this is 3000 BCE. And that's where now between 4000, 3000, and then 2000, 1000, that's where we will see all these prophets coming. We know Prophet Adam alayhi salam was the first human being on this earth. We don't know the exact timing of his coming, but we know that slowly as we moved further down, now we kind of can guess that around what time Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, and then Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, then Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So you can see that. Now, this is just an overview of 1300 BC of the entire world. This is 1300 BC. Now, this is 600 BC. Now, you can see that the Persian Empire is taking power. Europe is kind of being awakened, but not as much. And then finally, in 1 AD, which is a time of Jesus Christ, time of Isa alayhi salam, we see the Persian Empire, but we also see the Roman Empire. Now, these will become the two most powerful powers, and they will fight with each other for territory and for power for many, 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 many years. And when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, these two powers were basically fighting each other. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born right here in Mecca. And then when he started preaching Islam, Islam expanded not only in Arabian Peninsula, but they fought and defeated the entire Persian Empire in the time of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and then they moved towards Roman Empire. They had also conquered most of the areas, and we will see that not only the entire Turkey, but the some part of Europe was also conquered by Muslims. Inshallah, we'll study that in detail. This is 600 AD, the AD, which is just around the time when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there. So now you can see that the Eastern Roman Empire has expanded, Persian Empire has expanded, and all that. Now, I mentioned about Mesopotamia, or the land between Tigris and Euphrates. So this is the Tigris River going to Persian Gulf. This is the Euphrates River. So entire land inside, and right around it is called Mesopotamia. Now it's, of course, part of it is Iraq and Syria and all that, but at that time, this entire part was called Mesopotamia. So we can say the human civilization started from Mesopotamia. This is another map. You can see clearly the shaded area. This is Mesopotamia. You can also see that when it got in 2500 BC, when things started expanding, then how it moved from, this is Ur. We will study that this is where Ibrahim alayhi salam was born, and then he started preaching and he moved. And then when he went to Babylon, Namrud, king of Babylon, threw him in fire, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam moved through this path, and he went to Haran, and then finally he came to Palestine. And inshallah, we will study all that. This is Babylonia. This is Babylon, because if you study the ancient history, you will see that there were a lot of power within this area for a long, long time. And you will see many dynasties, many empires starting and flourishing in this area. And then they moved forward. So this was basically a brief overview of the ancient civilizations, and the reason I used maps is because I hope, inshallah, that you will retain this information in your mind through this visual aids. Because sometimes if we just keep reading text and theory, we do not understand as much as if you have some kind of visuals in front of you. So this was my idea behind showing you all the maps and giving you an overview of what was happening during those times. Now we will move towards 25 prophets of Allah mentioned in Quran. We know that there were 124,000 approximate prophets all around the world that Allah sent, but only 25 of them were mentioned in Quran, and Allah talks about their stories, and then Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam relayed that information to us, and then he also tells us more about what was mentioned in Quran. And then in addition to that, curiosity makes us study the teachings or the stories related by Torah especially, and then Bible. So Torah, for example, the 5 books of Torah, which starts from Genesis and then Exodus and all that, the beginning of the human beings, and then the migration of Musa alayhi salam from Egypt to Palestine, and all those sort of things, inshallah, we will study. But keep in mind that we are only going to know for fact that there were 25 prophets within the Middle East area. These are all the names. I don't have to read it. They're numbered. So they are kind of in order. So you can read them, and you can see that it all started with Adam alayhi salam, and then it ended at Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, him being the last prophet. He's the seal on prophecy. And right before him, like 600 years before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Isa alayhi salam came, and he taught Allah's word, Allah's message to people, which was revealed to him as Bible or as Injil. Okay. So now this is another chart that I've created, and I looked at some of the ancient history books, and both Western, the details in Torah, in Quran, in Hadith. So this is approximate. None of this is 100%. There's no way we can know everything 100%. So so as you can see, Adam is the first human being on earth. Then around 6 generations, 10 generations, we don't know, but approximately, due to some stories that I've read, I believe that around 6 generations later, there was Idris alayhi salam. And after 3 generations, there was Nuh alayhi salam. We know he is, because of the flooding in his time, everything got drowned. So apparently everyone is his offspring. Of course, everyone is Adam's offspring, but all the other people who lived in this area, you can say, were drowned or destroyed. So Nuh alayhi salam kind of revived. Allah made his offspring revive the entire humanity. So Ibrahim alayhi salam was born around after 10 generations. Hud alayhi salam on the other side, 8 generations. Then Ibrahim alayhi salam had 2 sons, Ismail alayhi salam and Ishaq alayhi salam. Then from the direct descendant of Ismail alayhi salam after 61 generations is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But on the other side, Ishaq alayhi salam had Yaqub alayhi salam, and then Yaqub alayhi salam had 12 sons, and most of these prophets came from his immediate offspring. and they are called Bani Israel. This is a very, very important part that you all have to remember. So Yaqub alayhi salam's the other name was Israel. So his offspring were called Bani Israel. You will see that Quran mentions it, a Hadith mentions it, and any history that you read about prophets, you will see that Bani Israel is mentioned. We know Yusuf alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, Harun alayhi salam, and all these Dawood alayhi salam, Sulaiman alayhi salam, including Isa alayhi salam, is all Bani Israel because they come from the offspring of Yaqub alayhi salam. So we can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 prophets who came after Yaqub alayhi salam are from Bani Israel. The rest of them, we can see that they are from different, like Lut alayhi salam was nephew of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And when they moved to Palestine, basically Lut alayhi salam was with Ibrahim alayhi salam. They both traveled and moved from Babylonia or from Ur to Palestine or Canaan at that time that was called. Then we see that Ishaq alayhi salam's other generation had after 5 generations Ayub alayhi salam and Zulkifl alayhi salam. So you can and you will have slides. Inshallah, I will share all these slides with you. I've spent a lot of time creating these, so inshallah that will help you understand the sequence of prophets. Now, this is I found a map, but this is in Urdu. But inshallah, or those who can read Arabic, they can see that these are the colored blocks are basically all the prophets who came in different areas and different countries and different cities. Then you can see. Now, what I have done is I have created this chart on my own. So I just put all these names in English so you guys can relate to them. And then you can see that all these prophets came around in this area. So we are talking about Egypt, Saudi Arabia, a little bit of Yemen, and then we go none of them in Iran, but then you have many prophets in Iraq, and then we have Syria, close to Lebanon, Jordan, and then a lot of them are in Palestine, which is Palestine, which is of course nowadays called Israel, but we as a Muslim, we always call this entire area is Palestine to us. So always when you look at the map, always refer to this as Palestine, because this is the land where most of our prophets came, and many of these prophets' grave are also there. So yes, Naveed. So these are the prophets mentioned in the Quran. Yes, you're right. Here, Naveed asked a question on chat that are these the prophets that were mentioned in Quran? Yes, all these 25 prophets are mentioned in Quran. Now, let me just give you an idea. So I took the map off, and these stars are the areas or places. So this is Mecca. This is Saudi Arabia. This is Mecca. So as you can see that the first human being or prophet, Adam alayhi salam, came to Mecca. He was descended somewhere else, but he came and met Hawa in Mecca. Then we have Idris alayhi salam, and then see how it grows. So just from the map, I've taken this, and as you can see, Lut alayhi salam, Ismail alayhi salam, uh, see how these prophets are coming in different areas. And then finally, we see that now the concentration starts where? In near Palestine. So which is right. Dawood alayhi salam, Sulaiman alayhi salam came in Palestine and that area. Then you have Zakaria alayhi salam, Yahya alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam. They all came around this area, which is Palestine. And then, of course, after Isa alayhi salam, we see that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam was made prophet, and he was born and raised in Mecca, and that's where the prophecy ends. So now we put the entire names of these prophets on the map, and this is what we get. Very important map for you. You can print it, you can enlarge it, you can keep it on your computers, but we will keep referring to them because next several classes we're going to be talking about prophets. So we will keep referring to these areas and these names. So kind of try to familiarize yourselves with all these names. Yes, we will have recordings. Alhamdulillah, I have created a YouTube channel. I have posted those recordings previously, and I will post this recording again. So you will get all these recordings on YouTube channel. But please try your best to attend the live class, because there is no comparison with the live class or with the recording. If for some reason you're not able to attend, then you can go and listen, or just to refresh your memories, whatever you've heard in the class, so you can still do that. Now, this is also another chart that I got from the internet. It's kind of close, but these are all the years. So Adam alayhi salam, as you can see, Nuh alayhi salam, they're saying that around 4000 BC he was born, and then he lived for almost 950 years, so for almost 1,000 years. And then all these other prophets came, and their dates, approximate dates, are mentioned. Now, one other important, and then we will end there. What is the difference between Rasul and Nabi? Because you will see both of these terms mentioned in our Islamic history class, and also other places. Whenever you hear about prophets, you will see this. So Muslim scholars say that there were 313 Rasul had been sent by Allah to spread His Sharia, or continue the existing Sharia of new nation. In Holy Quran, 25 prophets' names are mentioned. Rasul receives a new Sharia. So when we say Rasul, it means, for example, Musa alayhi salam had a new Sharia, so he's called a Rasul. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a Sharia, a new Sharia, so it's called a Rasul. But there are Nabi, for example, Isa alayhi salam, he's a Nabi, he's not a Rasul, because he continued the Sharia of Musa alayhi salam. So this make sure that you know the difference. So you can call Rasul a Nabi. So every Rasul is also a Nabi, because they're bringing the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But not every Rasul is Nabi, because there are only 313 Rasul, but we know that there are around 124,000 Nabi who were sent from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we will end here today. I guess you have seen a lot of information today through maps, and that's my intention, that's my goal, so that we all learn as a team through the maps, because otherwise it will become very difficult to remember the dates or the areas. So inshallah, we'll continue with the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, next. So we will start from Adam alayhi salam, and we'll keep going down until we complete all the prophets. So for today, Jazakallah for attending this, the second session, which is basically a third session, but because the first session was introductory. So now we have 15-20 minutes or more, it depends, for question answer session, and we'll open it for discussion session right after that. So for now, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.